Good morning, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us for this session on RAMSeS, Essentials of Project Administration and RAMTracker Search. Thank you all, and now pass the mic to Jen and Danny.
I'll start. This is Jen Teixeira. I'm the Senior Director of Research Administration in the Office of Sponsored Programs. Danny, you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. I'm Danny Burns. I am the Associate Chair for Administration in the Department of Pathology and Laboratory Medicine.
And we're going to be going over research administration and RAMTracker search. We're going to be kind of going over access and roles, the dashboards that are available to you, kind of go into a little depth into RAMTracker search and some of the functionalities that will be coming soon, hopefully, proposal administration and project administration, as well as share some resources and hopefully have time for Q&A at the end. We've also asked Sarah if she can go ahead and kind of answer questions as we go along, because we do have a lot of material to cover. So I'll take it away. First part, RAMSeS access and roles. So one of the things that we wanted to go over was the two types of RAMSeS roles, and users can have either or both. You've got the functional, which is the perform actions or entering, submitting in RAMSeS. And then you have data access, which is where you're authorized to view assigned departmental data in RAMSeS. So those are the two main roles within RAMSeS for the departments. The roles are assigned and managed in Backbone by the department role managers. So if you find that you don't have the appropriate access or that you need access, you need to work with your role manager to determine, to get that access. Users with valid onion can access Backbone to view the role assignments in their specific departments. And it also identifying who your role managers are. So that way, if you are having issues, even if you have just basic access, you can go in and figure out who you need to talk with. So also for Backbone support in general, you can contact Lori Sadler with ORAS, and here's her email, and this will be posted in the slide deck that's available at the end. So common functions roles for RAMSeS are the IPF approver, and that person approves the IPFs that have been routed for departmental certification. The closeout submitter, and that person submits the PS project ID closeout records for OSP billing specialist review. And the closeout approver, who is the person who approves the PS project ID closeout record that's routed for departmental certification. And of course, the PS Project ID Manager. So the PS Project ID Manager is the recommended role for administrators and departments who want to receive RAMSeS auto-generated emails. So a lot of our emails that come out automatically are linked to that role. Roles need just note role needed to access Spark forms, for example, is the subcontract management. So if you're going to look at the Spark meeting later today, that's coming soon. Just know that you'll need this new role to be able to go in there. And then the primary award contact, I just want to note here, this is not a role. It's not assigned in Backbone. It's actually something that's designated on the completed IPF. So it's separate than the PS Project ID. It's one of the reasons that we actually use the PS Project ID Manager role when we do those auto-generated emails, in addition to any primary award contact, since that's entered at the IPF stage and that can change over time. And so just keep that in mind. Some people think that primary award contact is a role, and it is not. Okay, well, let's get into the dashboards, kind of go over the dashboards that are available to you and kind of what we're actually going to be focusing on today. So the dashboards that are part of RAMSeS include the proposal dashboard, where you can view proposals in my department and proposal administration, the award dashboard, which is where you can view awards that are in your department and your project administration screens, and then the RAMTracker transparency dashboard, where you can kind of view all those RAMTracker transactions. So that transactional work that we do within both of those modules. There's also the other support tool, the certification/approvals, and the F&A sharing agreements. We won't be going over the last 3 modules, but we will be covering in more detail the first 3. So let's go into RAMTracker search, and this is the RAMSeS function, or the RAMTracker transparency functionality within the admin modules. So a couple of things I wanted to point out on this screen is that we do have something exciting that is coming soon and has been asked for by multiple people and departments, and that is we are going to be allowing or updating this to allow for a RAMTracker ID search. So instead of just searching by different transactions, you'll be able to actually key in the RAMTracker ID and search for it, and it'll be able to pull up that one. The other thing I wanted to point out is we do have a known issue that we've asked ORIS to fix here, which is in relation to that in-process transaction checkbox. So currently that's automatically checked, and it shows anything that's in process, which would be typically those things that are pending some type of action or are open, versus if you uncheck it, the closed and completed transactions appear. Unfortunately, when we added the return to department status within RAMTracker, that is not currently appearing on the in-process transactions. So you do need to uncheck that to see that. It's a known error. We've asked ORIS to make it where those return to department statuses will appear automatically on the screen for in process, but it also is something that is coming soon. In the meantime, there's a couple ways you can kind of use this current search to find those, which is first to uncheck the in-process transactions and then filter the status types by alphabetical order and go to where you would see the return to department. Or if you have a specific project ID that you want to know a status on, go ahead and do that search functionality for project ID. It will bring the RAMTrackers that are only related to that, and then you can see if there's any return to department under that project ID. So that's a couple kind of workarounds we have right now. Obviously, the long-term fix is those will automatically appear in the in-process transaction. So I just wanted to make note of that on this. The other thing is it has a lot of the same functionality as other screens. You can sort by any of these by clicking at the top. So that's RAMTracker search. Oh, sorry. So one thing, the RAMTracker notes, so once you click into it, it has a lot of really, really useful information that I wanted to point out, and that is RAMTracker notes have not only the last note that was created, which will be in that note section there, but it's got some basic information about the status, when that status started, who, for example, is the in-process activity. So is it holding for department information, or where is it? And who's the current owner? So who, and links to those individuals so you can contact them. But there's a lot of helpful information to understand where that is in the process, as well as an informative note on what that action was. One thing to note is another thing that's coming out soon that I just want to highlight here is we're in the process of implementing DocuSign contracting Management Lifecycle System. So CLM is what it's called. We're going to be integrating that with the RAMTracker system. And so it's an online tool to actually do negotiations online with our sponsors. And so all of those status updates that are related to that negotiation process that's done in this new CLM system will be automatically transferred into RAMTracker. So the statuses will be updated, the notes will be updated, everything will be kind of live. So for example, if our sponsor goes in and responds back with red lines or gives us comments back, that will in real time be updated in RAMTracker, so you know that they've gone in there and done something. So it won't be manual, and it'll be more kind of real time updates in the system. So we're really, really looking forward to that. Okay. So Danny, I think this is yours.
It sure is. Thanks, Jen. I'm going to be reviewing how to locate your proposals and how to navigate within the proposal administration dashboards. So to locate and view your proposals, first you want to navigate to the proposals in my department on the left-hand panel. Once here, you can filter and view a snapshot of data for all submitted proposals on one screen. There are several different search by options, which include all proposals, proposal number, lead PI, sponsor, project name, and a few others. You're also able to sort this information by clicking on any one of the headers. After you've pulled and sorted the proposal data, you're able to click on any hyperlink to view the proposal administration dashboard for that selected proposal. Next slide, there we go. Within the proposal administration dashboard for that selected proposal, you'll find key details about the proposal in the header, including the sponsor and the deadline, along with key contacts. Again, all blue hyperlinked fields can be clicked on to access additional data. By clicking on a person's name, that will give you their contact information. It's a best practice to review the PS project ID managers listed in the proposal or project administration screens to ensure that the individuals in your department have the access that they need. Beneath the header, you'll find several tabs. The General tab will outline who is the current owner of the proposal, along with the proposal status and initial and total requested funds. The Routing tab will note which individuals and departments are to review and authorize the proposal before submission. PIs must certify, that includes lead PIs and any multiple PIs, and any administering, appointing, or cost-sharing departments will need to authorize the proposal prior to submission. It's important to note here that the admin department must approve the proposal before it's even sent to SPO or OSP for them to review. The Personnel tab provides a list of personnel and their role on the study. After an IPF has been submitted, departments are no longer able to make any edits. If personnel need to be edited prior to award receipt, please work with the appropriate admin office, OSP or SPO, responsible for approving the proposal to make the changes. Similarly, the Organization tab shows the affiliated entities with the proposal, including the sponsor and any subcontractors. Relevant organizational COIs will also be listed. The Compliance tab is important to review at just in time and also when an award is received, as a project ID cannot be issued until all compliance checks are complete. This tab will note if there are any human or animal subjects, and if so, the respective IRB and ICOG protocol numbers will need to be linked by OSP once available. This tab also shows individual COI and whether their disclosure has been submitted, reviewed, and completed, and if training is still valid. COI is a hard stop for award setup. Be aware of the red X's as you're reviewing this information in anticipation of award setup. The Attachments tab will show any documents or emails related to the proposal. Department users can continue to add documents after the proposal has been submitted. It's a best practice to upload all key correspondence and internal and external documents to ensure proposal history is retained. And then finally, we have the notes and email log tabs. Any user who has access to the proposal is able to add a note, and it will automatically record who made the note and on what date. It's highly encouraged to use the notes section to indicate anything unusual about the proposal. The email log tab is helpful to see a history of the automated emails that have been released and to whom the email was sent. This allows for follow-up as needed. And with that, I'm going to hand it back to Jen.
Okay, so it's me again. We're going to go over the award and project portion of the admin modules. And in here, kind of, I just want to highlight the same things that Danny highlighted in the proposal. It has the same key functions as far as search capability and filter capability that you can do. Use the awards in my department dashboard page to filter and view a snapshot of data for all awards, including LOGs, on one screen. As with the proposals in my department, click on the hyperlinks to review the project administration tabs for the selected awards. So you can use it very similarly. Awards pending setup will not appear here unless under an LOG. So just note that they're still going to be in your proposal admin modules because they haven't technically been funded in the system. Project administration. So the header details in the project administration repeat similar information that are listed in the proposal administration. So it should look pretty familiar to you, with addition of identifying the specific award / project number that it's associated with. So I've highlighted that up at the top in red. The project number in RAMSeS is synonymous with the Connect Carolina contract number. So it refers to the number assigned for all years of an award. Kind of just to give you a high overview, the types of project ID numbers we have are prime, which is your prime PS project ID. And then we have sub-account, and that is where the PS project ID is assigned to a UNC PI as a sub-account off of that prime. Or you have subcontract, which is a PS project ID that's assigned to a subcontractor with external PIs. And so those are the three main ones. I also just want to note that your sponsor project specialist will always be listed on that header screen as a resource. And again, use those hyperlinks. You can figure out your contact information here and reach out to the appropriate people. One other thing is that the total obligated, I do want to point that out on the project admin screen. It's the obligated as of that date, but not the total award amount. So just make sure you understand that. Also, projects without carryover approval may show more obligated than they have access to. So keep note of that. Okay. So here is your general and award screens. General award screens, the amounts that make up the total obligated amount, as you can tell, represent the award numbers below. And so you will see the, it'll help you to understand the history of the obligation or de-obligation of those funding. So it's definitely a helpful subscreen as that award screen because you can see kind of that history. So for example, here, March 18, 2019, the initial award came in, and then March 16, 2022, it looks like there was probably an increase in the period of performance, but no additional obligated funds. So you can see kind of that just screen, overview of obligations. So I find that helpful. It still has the general screen information at the top with just the basic information that's pretty consistent throughout. PS project ID. So here's where you can find your PS project ID and hyperlink to that for more information. I will go ahead and go into detail. This is where you get into the PS project ID setup information, and I just wanted to show you where that was within the project administration screens. So if you click on that hyperlink for that project ID, it will lead you to this next screen. This next screen will show you exactly how the award was set up in the system. And I've highlighted some key information about this project ID that's helpful, including that this is a federal project, the way it was established within the Connect Carolina feed. So what the fund is, what the source is, the department, when that feed went through. Another really helpful bit of information is it will tell you if it's a continuing PS project ID or if there's an old PS project ID linked to it. So that's extremely helpful information. How the F&A calculation was established when this was the rate that was being used. So what the institutional F&A rate was at the time, what our sponsor F&A rate was, and what the awarded F&A rate was, as well as I've highlighted here in the small box to the right, the closeout tab within this PS project ID setup screen, which is where you can't, so closeout records are no longer required in RAMSeS, but it can be a useful tool for you to record your closeout notes in the sponsor project's account or biller assigned to your award for reporting purposes. The closeout submitter and approval roles are assigned to complete the closeout record for project IDs. So just note that. Okay. Project administration billing. Once an invoice or financial report has been submitted to the sponsor, a copy of that document is uploaded in RAMSeS and attachments, and it will also display in this billing attachments list. So it will appear on the attachment screen, but it will also filter in just those that are on the billing attachment list. So I think this is a really helpful tool instead of going through all of your attachments. I will note that on the billing per unit type of projects, that the department or so the Ledger 6 projects that the department is responsible for invoicing for, the department can upload the invoices here as well on the RAMSeS attachments, and they will display here if you select the invoice financial report. So it will filter into the screen. Another really helpful piece of information on this tab is it will list who your sponsor project's accountant is at that very top. So I've highlighted it for you. It's a good resource to figure out who that contact is. And then the personnel and proposals. Having the correct personnel listed in RAMSeS is really important for many reasons. We rely on this information to run annual COI or when various other compliance issues arise to notify the appropriate staff. Updates to the personnel on a RAMSeS project are made by the sponsor program specialist. So communication with your sponsor program specialist is really important. Reach out to us as soon as you know the change of PI, co-PI, but also any personnel on that project. The PI and co-PI are obvious ones because we're going to probably have to do a prior approval request if we plan on either changing PIs or if we're planning on moving that award to another institution. That's going to be a process. So those are obvious, but even if we've had changes in the technical staff or the individuals who are listed on the screen, that's also very helpful so that we make sure that our personnel information is up to date and accurate at all times. Okay. Subcontract screen. So this is if you want information that's specific about a subcontract, you can always go to the subcontract tab in the project administration screen. So while you can go into the events tab and look at the details related to into RAMTracker transparency and look at all the details related to maybe a subcontract that's moving through the process, this also gives you a brief overview of where it is. So for example, it will tell you the start date, if a subaward has been executed, or if it is still in progress. It will tell you what the negotiated rate is, and it will give you some kind of basic overview information, personnel and the compliance tab associated with it as well. So it's definitely a helpful tool. It will include all of your subcontracts for this project, and they'll be listed here. You can click on and get some additional details. I do encourage you, however, if you're talking about if we're in the process of negotiating a subcontract and you want up-to-date and detailed information, RAMTracker transparency is the most appropriate and easiest place to find where that subcontract is. It's going to include the note. It's going to include that sub status of where it's at, for example. It's going to let you know who's working on it on the subcontracting team and who your contact is. So while this gives you a snapshot, that's going to give you the detailed information typically. Okay, attachments. So the attachment screen is very it's got a couple of things I wanted to point out here. We have the capability on attachment screens to filter, because we all know that there's lots of attachments that we attach to proposals and awards. And so just please keep in mind that you can filter by these different award attachments, as well as the award project attachments and award subcontract attachments and proposal. I use this a lot of times when I'm dealing with awards that have multi-year and lots of attachments, so I can kind of get to a smaller subset and actually find what I need, as far as like I'll look for application packages or something to that effect if I'm looking for the originally submitted proposal. So do keep that in mind when you're going on the attachment screen. There's definitely this filter capability that you should take advantage of. Okay, so as far as resources go, the biggest resource for you when it comes to individual questions about a specific award is typically the assigned sponsored program specialist or the sponsored projects accountant. And so I did want to point out to you a helpful tool within RAMSeS, which is on that main screen, where you can click on the Help tab at the top and then select the Contacts Project Related Support under Help. That will then open up a search for you where you can search by the proposal number, the award project number, the department, and the PS project ID number. The more specific information you have, so for example, the PS project ID number is going to provide you the most extensive information about a specific project, whereas the department might only have an overview of just some basic information. So keep that in mind. The search results are slightly different based on what you select. But just giving you an example of what comes back for a PS project ID search, it will share with you not only who within your department has the various different roles we talked about at the very beginning of this presentation. So it's going to tell you the PS project ID managers. For that project ID, it's going to give you the primary award contact that was identified in the original IPF, the closeout approvers, the closeout submitters, and the backbone role manager as well. So you'll be able to kind of see all that information. The other thing it's going to give you, which is why I'm pointing you here right now, is it's going to give you your central office contact. So it's going to tell you who your sponsor project specialist is and who your sponsor project accountant is. So that way you can, all of these have hyperlinks too. So you can click on that and reach out to those individuals if you have specific questions. Again, if you need help on backbone support, feel free to reach out to Lori Sadler and Oris. If it's specific to a role that you need, I didn't put this on here, but if it is specific to a role that you need or access that you need related to your department, then This will show you where your backbone role manager is, and you can reach out to them to make sure that you have the appropriate access to the system. Or for general questions, you can always contact sponsor programs at unc.edu. So I think we've given enough time for some questions.
For department managed contracts that have a project ID that starts with a 6, are you saying that the department can upload the invoices to bill the sponsor here in RAMSeS?
The department is still responsible for submitting the invoices to the sponsor, but a copy of that invoice can be uploaded here for reference, and also so we can keep it as part of the record. It's not saying that we would be submitting that. It's just saying that if we want to include it as part of the official record of that RAMSeS record. And so it's highly recommended as a good practice to upload those invoices there for purposes of audit. So we always have that information.
So we have another question, which is, what does LOG mean?
So Sarah already responded, but I'll say it's letter of guarantee. And kind of just to give an overview, LOG is when you've received, let's say, an award notification from your sponsor. And there's low risk that you're not going to ultimately get that award. So maybe it's a matter of just getting certain, your T's crossed, your I's dotted, and certain things in place we need to take care of. And the department is willing to take on that additional risk of setting it up with a project ID prior to us finalizing all of those last pieces. We have confirmation from the sponsor that we've been awarded, what those start dates are, and what the dollar amount is. And those things are very key to an LOG. We need to know how much we're getting. We need to know what's the period of performance, and we need confirmation from our sponsor we're getting it. But if we do have all of those things and the department is willing to take on that risk and signs off on it, they can submit what we call an LOG, or letter of guarantee. So we can basically set up a project ID in advance of finalizing everything and executing the agreement.
Oh yeah, I would add there that it's the department's responsibility to cover those costs if for whatever reason the actual agreement falls through. So you want to be very intentional and strategic about when you use this mechanism, because the department ultimately at the end of the day is responsible for those dollars and making sure that it comes to fruition. And also to add, it's not just giving you another project ID or the start of a project ID, but this can be really helpful with subcontracts when it takes some time to get the actual contract signed. It will let you keep those project IDs open so you can continue to post payroll so people aren't kicking to suspense. So it does help keep your accounting really clean. So when used well, it's encouraged.
That's a very good point. It is when used well. And do note, when you're signing off on those, the department is taking that responsibility. And it is that's why I call it a risk. There's a risk associated with it.
Thank you. So we have another question, which is, there's a proposal number for an award. There's a proposal number, an award number, and finally a project ID number. For award processes, what is the value of the different numbers?
Well, you can have multiple proposals associated with an award, and multiple awards associated with a project. So a good example of that is you can submit a new proposal, and then you could submit a supplement proposal. That's going to be two distinct proposals that will be actually part of the same award. And the awards, there could be let's say the incremental funding, that could be a standard year 1 through 5 award, and then that supplement comes through and gets awarded. But we might be required to report separately on that supplement funding. So we're going to have a different award. It's all part of that project though. And so we have this overarching project that has multiple proposals and multiple awards. I always kind of compare it to a filing cabinet, where you've got like the organization of those multiple different things associated with that overarching project. And your filing cabinet is that like project, but all the different files associated with it. Would you say that's a good way of describing it, Danny? Or do you have any other kind of, from the department perspective, what are your thoughts?
No, I agree with everything you said.
Okay.
some of us are not in RAMSeS daily. Is there a document mapping RAMSeS tabs and where to find specific details?
Oh, okay.
If whomever, yeah, and if whomever wrote this wants to email separately, you're also more than welcome to if you want to expound upon that. But I'm
Yeah.
assuming it's where to find specific details and maybe where those details
What information
are
is in
tabs.
specific tabs.
Yes.
And so I will say that there is a RAMSeS, I believe, linked to an old kind of like RAMSeS, what is it called? It has it's like a training document that has basically all of the different fields that are associated with it. I believe it's not current as far as the most updated information of the most recent ones. Just kind of to give some context, we're in the process of working on what we're calling single submission, which will also kind of replace RAMSeS and ALICE. And so we've been putting a lot of our efforts towards that implementation at this point, and not additional training documents.
Awesome. Thank you, Jen.
Is there
and
anything, Danny,
think,
that you referenced before that has that information? I can't think of anything else.
No, I think I was thinking of that same document, that training resource that you just mentioned.
It's on ORIS's website, I believe, and linked from RAMSeS, but we
Yes.
could maybe get that out there in the answers.
Yeah, and I think too, we're going to make these slides available to everybody. So we've kind of, we intentionally, and by we, I mean, really Amanda's team has pulled together all the screenshots. And so you can see what's on each page. So hopefully that will help you scroll to figure out where within RAMSeS you need to go to find the information you're looking for.
Yes, we were very purposeful, or you're right. Operations was very purposeful in putting those screenshots out there so you can actually go through this slide deck at a later time and see all of those fields.
Excellent. Thank you, everyone. And if there aren't any more questions, oh, wait, a link to this presentation. Yes, sorry. So Jessica was just saying that a link to this presentation will be in the signature from OSP subs at UNC.edu once it's been uploaded. So everybody, you'll have access to this as soon as this is ready. But if there aren't any more questions, I just wanted to say thank you all for joining, and a special thank you to our presenters. This was really great, and it was a lot of good information.